We are live, streaming simultaneously right now on both Twitch TV and YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. This is the continuation, Season 4, The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob. Tonight, Episodes 7 and 8. Let me switch over to the live feed here for everybody watching on Twitch, so that way they at least get an idea of what's going on. They at least have an idea of what's happening around them. Okay. Fix our camera a little bit here. Looks good to me. Looks good on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Joe Bob tonight on The Last Drive-In is going to be reviewing two movies, Wolf Guy and Demon Wind. So hopefully you showed up to have some laughs. Hope everybody out there is getting ready for the fall season. Fall in October just around the corner now. Today, August the 20th. So we are coming to a close in the end of the month. And we are getting ready for spooky season. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the reason we all showed up here today is to listen to one man and one man only. And that is Joe Bob Briggs. As I said tonight, he will be talking about the movies Wolf Guy, Enraged Lycanthrope, and also Demon Wind. So that is what is on the agenda for tonight. Let's get right into it.
I gotta get a new shirt. Okay, I know y'all love it when I go Japanese. Actually, half of you are insanely happy about it, and the other half hate me. I still get mail about that feces scene in Dead or Alive. But hey, I had to watch it, you can watch it too. And I think we're better people for having seen the enema sex, liquid feces, Yakuza murder sequence, or maybe not. But you know what the Japanese do better than anybody else, though? Hate and cruelty. I mean, we've got mafia movies over here that are pretty intense, but damn, those Yakuza movies, they're just masterpieces of going to the ultimate man's inhumanity to man themes. Remember how they taught you that in school? This is man's inhumanity to man. That's the theme of this great work. And then it'd just be about the Civil War or something. When the Japanese do man's inhumanity to man, it's, and then he cut off the guy's ears and he attached a metal clamp to his testicles and he wrapped a couple of anacondas around his neck and he set his toes on fire. I mean, stuff you would never think of. Stuff Torquemada would never think of. And all of this is leading up to our second feature tonight, Wolf Guy, which... how can I explain this? This is a martial arts, horror, thriller, mystery, superhero, werewolf, Yakuza, folk legend, hard-boiled cop, soft-core sleaze, medical experiment, psychedelic musical about syphilis, bestiality, kung fu, and interspecies romance. Does that about sum it up? I think so. Now, how does such a thing happen? Only in Japan does such a thing happen. That goes without saying. But the first thing you have to know is that prior to Godzilla, which came out in 1954, there was no such thing as a Japanese monster. It just wasn't part of their tradition. Now, that didn't mean they didn't make Frankenstein movies and Dracula movies and King Kong ripoffs, but they were getting all that stuff from the West. The American or the British movie would make it to Japan, and then one of the big four Japanese film studios would do their own funky version of it. For example, they loved The Invisible Man. Why? Because it's the cheapest monster to film. They loved The Mummy, although in Japan, they actually had real-life Buddhist monks who mummified themselves while they were still alive. That's quite a bit freakier than the mummy stories from this country. But it's true. The way it works is the monk is sitting up in the mountains of northern Japan in the lotus position, and he decides, hey, I'm going to mummify myself on the installment plan. And so he sets up this eating and drinking schedule that's going to last for 3,000 days, and all he eats is pine needles, resins. What are resins? That's the sap from the tree, right? and seeds that he finds on the ground. And supposedly that eliminates all the fat in his body, and he slowly starves to death. And he's managing his liquid so that he's getting a perfect dehydration going. And all the time he's chanting, he's meditating. They had special stuff you would say for this. And the goal is that his body will dry up, and he'll end up sitting there like a piece of beef jerky in a saffron robe with everything perfectly preserved, with his skin and teeth intact, no decay. There are actually pictures of these guys who did it successfully. They pickled themselves. And this wasn't considered suicide. This was considered an act of attaining the Buddha nature.
Now, I do just want to give a quick shout out, ladies and gentlemen. I do just want to give a quick shout out to Universal Studios for being the first major studio to really push the boundaries with horror. Of course, as you all know, when horror first started here in America, we had movies such as Dracula with Bela Lugosi, The Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr., Boris Karloff playing Frankenstein, and of course The Mummy. I believe Lon Chaney Jr. was also in The Mummy. It could have also been his father, Lon Chaney. But they also made movies such as King Kong. And if any of you know me personally, you know I personally prefer King Kong over Godzilla. Now, to me, Godzilla is an asshole, right? He's just a giant fire-breathing lizard that showed up one day in Japan and decided to fucking destroy the whole city. King Kong, on the other hand, these motherfuckers went to his home turf. They messed with him on his island. King Kong wasn't fucking with nobody. He was a harmless soul. And what did they do? They captured him, they put him in chains, they brought him back to America, and they made him a fucking tourist attraction in New York.
Well, I think this could have resulted in some great horror films. You know, especially if you get the diet just slightly out of whack. You just become half a mummy or something, you know. Pickle Man, 1 week only. Pickle Man goes to Tokyo. You know, Pickle Man Dundee. Pickle Man scared stupid. Slam dunk Pickle Man.
And nowadays, you know, Warner Brothers, I love Warner Brothers, don't get me wrong, but to me, it's almost like they take the King Kong versus Godzilla concept and turn it into more of like the superhero kind of action movie. To me, King Kong and Godzilla are not fucking superheroes, okay? They are monsters. It's supposed to be a monster movie. My favorite King Kong movie is actually the 2005 version, filmed a very long time ago. It had Jack Black in it. That is probably my favorite version of King Kong. Recently, I did watch Godzilla -1, and I know there's now a black and white version of it, but that was actually a really good Godzilla movie to me as well, because that actually was more of like an origin story for Godzilla as opposed to just another sequel. But when it comes to the King Kong versus Godzilla conversation, I'm taking King Kong every single day. All right?
Anyway, I digress. So, all the Japanese had were ghost stories. They were pretty good ghost stories because the ghosts were always violent. They were angry, vengeful ghosts. And also they had a bunch of stories about guys getting punished by having their arms hacked off or their eyes gouged out. So that was kind of horror. But they didn't have any very sophisticated horror until World War II, when we dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they go, wow, okay, this is horror. And they start making movies about radiation people and radiation monsters, the most famous of which was Gojira or Godzilla. Okay, so the only monster the Japanese did not know about from the West was the Wolfman. And the reason for that also involves World War II. The Lon Chaney Wolfman was released by Universal Pictures on December 9th, 1941, 2 days after Pearl Harbor. So they never saw it. There wouldn't be any American monsters to do Japanese ripoff versions of for a long time after that. So the Japanese writers and the directors and the public, they totally missed out on the Wolfman series. And then 25 years later, when they're still rebuilding from the war, a few Wolfie stories start reaching Japanese shores. But as usual, they kind of took the whole Wolfman myth way too seriously. And they decided, well, if he's a Wolfman, some human ancestor had to have sex with a wolf, right? So they already had this tradition in Japan of violent dog spirits. That's angry ghosts of dead dogs. And those spirits were called inugami. Now, see, some of you already know where I'm going with this. because the star of tonight's movie, the great Shinichi Chiba, better known as Sonny Chiba, plays a character called Akira Inugami. He's the werewolf. Only this is the only werewolf movie ever made where he never transforms. He could have transformed into a wolf, but they didn't have the money for that because this was made by the B-movie division of Toei Studios. One was Toho, that's the Japanese studio everybody's heard of because they made Godzilla, and Katakawa. And this movie was made by Toei, which was the top studio in Yakuza and martial arts. And then, what was the fourth Japanese studio? There's four. Yuki, come on out here. What was the our set designer, art director is Japanese.
It's actually interesting to me as well how in Japan they had a Big Four movie studio, as well as we had a Big Four movie studio here in America, and we still do to this very day. The top four movie studios of all time here in America are considered Disney, Paramount Pictures, Universal, and Warner Brothers.
Shochiku, that was the
Shochiku. Yuki owns more bolo ties than I do. The Tokyo Cowboy. Shochiku Studios was known for kabuki and anime. Did you ever work with Sonny Chiba?
Yes, I did. It wasn't a movie, but I did a commercial with him twice.
You did a commercial with Sonny Chiba? For what product?
The first one was a rice cooker.
Rice cooker?
Yeah.
What did he do? Did he kung fu the rice cooker?
No, he was in the kitchen and just cooked the food.
Okay. What was the second one?
Second one was around Kill Bill time. So the company casted both Tarantino and Sonny Chiba. And
you made a commercial with Tarantino
yes.
and Sonny Chiba?
Yes.
Commercial with Sonny Chiba.
I was art coordinator.
Oh, you were art coordinator. But I mean, what was the product?
The cell phone.
The cell phone
commercial, yeah.
And what did they do?
Tarantino, his character is like a talking guy, constantly talking, so obnoxious. And then Sonny Chiba's character is a detective, so chasing him to arrest him. So,
okay. So it's an action. It's an action commercial. So you worked with the great Sonny Chiba. That's great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Not only the great Sonny Chiba, but also the great Quentin Tarantino. One of my favorite directors of all time, ladies and gentlemen. My top two, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. And one of my favorite movies from Quentin Tarantino, I gotta include them both together, because to me, you can't have one without the other, Kill Bill, which is technically a samurai revenge movie.
So anyway, my point is, where are we? All right, my point is, Toei has a sort of Roger Corman thing going on in the 70s, okay? They're making B movies. They're releasing double features. And so the second feature has to be made cheap and dirty.
Now, for me, it's definitely more, Kill Bill is definitely more of a samurai revenge movie. It does include martial arts, which I can appreciate because that's one of the only kind of Quentin Tarantino films where you get to see his involvement with the martial arts style. But I do want to mention that when they made Mortal Kombat, not the original ones, even though it would have been nice, but more recently, like the remake, that was like a 3 out of 10 for me. I probably maybe like a 4 at best. But fucking, they needed, honestly, the director from IP Man to really work with the martial arts style in something like Mortal Kombat. I think he would have been able to do something very unique and just propel that movie to different levels of success and just make it even more entertaining. The remake that I watched was absolutely horrible. I hated what they did to my favorite character, Sub-Zero. I hated how much of a joke Liu Kang was in the remake. The whole movie is just pretty bad if you've ever seen the Mortal Kombat remake, but I know they want to make a second one, and I know it's actually in talk right now of production. They might even be filming it. I don't fucking know. I'm not, involved with Hollywood like that, but if it was me, I would definitely want the director from IP Man to be working on my Mortal Kombat movies. It doesn't matter to me if he's a fucking Mortal Kombat fan or not. At the end of the day, it comes down to the martial arts style and the way that the fight scenes are kind of coordinated and choreographed, would just do 10 times, fucking even 100 times better than what they gave us in that Mortal Kombat remake. That's just me. Just wanted to throw that out there. Again, you know, take it or leave it.
That's why a lot of the things you see in Wolf Guy are so inspired. Well, I mean, you can say that was really inspired, or you can say, wow, those cheap bastards did it that way. But either way, it makes for a wild ride. So I'll explain more of how Wolf Guy happened. But Wolf Guy is from a genre called, it's just called Wolf Guy genre. There's a...
And you know what? Chat? They made fucking Scorpion a good guy. They made fucking Scorpion a good guy in that Mortal Kombat remake, which is also bullshit. Because Scorpion should never be a good guy. You want to know why he was a good guy in the fucking Mortal Kombat remake? Because Ed Boon is a fucking Scorpion dick rider. That's his favorite character. And he's gonna fucking put Scorpion on the poster every chance that he gets. Make him the star of the show every chance that he gets. And then guess what? He was the star of the Mortal Kombat remake movie when it should have been Sub-Zero, damn it.
Only one Wolf Guy, and you'll see why in just a minute. But first, let's look at those driving totals.
But of course, they need a reason. They need a reason in Hollywood. Why does Sub-Zero become evil? Why does Sub-Zero become Noob Saibot? Listen, if you go back to the original Midway games, Sub-Zero's the good guy. Fucking Scorpion is always the bad guy, okay? It wasn't fucking NetherRealm who created the Sub-Zero enemy antagonist persona, okay? That was all done for Hollywood purpose in the movie, in the stupid-ass remake. Again, they're making a second movie. I think it's going to come out soon. Hopefully it's better than the first piece of shit because that was trash.
We have 78 dead bodies, 26 breasts,
26 breasts!
Multiple hard... One wolf
26 breasts, ladies and gentlemen.
Fiery infernos,
in the Japanese Wolf Guy movie.
Body ripping, psychic intestine repair, bullet through the eye, exploding mountain, multiple attack ninjas, steel bar bending, close-up surgical torture, multiple exploding bodies, homeless drunk abuse, leisure-suited gang brawl, fat guy cooking, autopsy results indicating demonic DNA, stomach slashing, multiple blood licking, brickbat to the back, wolf girl, cranium clubbing, ear biting, junkie beating, cliff tumbling, choking, head bashing, throat slashing, neck cracking, flute enhanced breast suckling, suicidal gang rape backstory, 2 motor vehicle chases and 2 explosions with fireball, gratuitous superimposed floating tiger, kung fu, karate fu, fistfight fu, yakuza fu, dirty needle fu, chloroform fu, poison gas fu, grenade fu, alter ego wolf fu with twitching. Driving Academy Award nominations for Sonny Chiba as the Wolfman cop. Actually, we think he's a cop. He might be a reporter. But he says, tonight smells like another bloody incident perpetrated by humanity. And he's a guy so radical he can evade automatic weapons fire by somersaulting. Connie Kobayashi as the sexy motorcyclist who lures the Wolfman into her red satin bed and says, I'm just a woman who wants an animal. Etsuko Nami as Miki, the stripper rape victim who rides out of her kimono and sings about tiger vengeance as the audience throws fruit at her. Yayoi Watanabe as Taka, the wild woman from the sticks who says what we always like to hear, let my body give you some relief, even if just for a little while. And Kazuhiko Yamaguchi, the director, for making a Wolfman movie without ever seeing a Wolfman movie. 4 stars. Joe Bob says, check it out.
26 breast. Joe Bob gives it 4 stars, says, check it out. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not calling it Wolf Guy to be disrespectful. That is the name of the movie. Again, inspired from the Wolfman here in America. In Japan, they got the Wolf Guy.
Oh, man. That was great, Yuki. Thank you for that. The actual title of the movie is Wolf Guy Enraged Lycanthrope. Japanese movies always have 2 names separated by a colon, in case you don't understand what a wolf guy is. It's an enraged lycanthrope, lycanthrope being the Latin word for half man, half wolf. So not that new an idea. They had it back in Roman times, actually. Lycanthropy being the disease in which you imagine you are a wolf. Actually, wasn't Rome founded by wolves or founded by brothers raised by wolves? Or there was something wolfy about the deal in Rome, something sexually bizarre and wolfy. Romulus and Remus, that's what it was. Suckled by a she-wolf, that's what it was. It's the suckling. It's all about the suckling. As we will discover as the movie goes on. Breastfeeding, it would be called today. Not to be confused with wolf in the breast. That's old hags who would claim they had wolves inside their breast gnawing away at their body. That's an old English folk tale. Has nothing to do with breastfeeding or suckling, much less with suckling at the teat of a wolf, which apparently Romulus and Remus did do. Maybe Remus more than Romulus, because they named the city Rome, not Rheims. You know, because think about it. If they were both wolf milk fetishists, you would want the lesser pervert to be your founder. So that just makes sense. They would go with Rome. Unless you live in Japan, then you would want Sonny Chiba getting kinky with a wolf girl, which he does in this movie. We love wolves here at the Last Drive-In.
Getting kinky with the wolf girl.
Just not in the biblical sense. I mean, if you
wolf
think about
woman?
what's really going on in this movie, it's a wolf who's perplexed by all these female humans who want to have sex with him. And Sonny Chiba has this special wolf expression that he uses when that happens. So it's
wolf guy and wolf woman
told from the point of view of the beast, which had never been done before prior to this film. So groundbreaking.
Now that sounds like a
you may not want to break, but
big breakout Marvel movie right there.
Smooth, hard, and dry, if you know what I mean.
Wolf guy and wolf woman. Need me a suckling from a she-wolf, Shakira, if you know what I mean, chat, and I think you do. Wolf guy and wolf woman, the next Marvel movie. First segment break, 17 minutes.
I'm just a woman who wants an animal. The distaff version of the famous Nine Inch Nails song, right? You know what song I'm talking about. I'm just a woman who wants an animal. Why did I say distaff? That's an old newspaper term. You would say distaff so you wouldn't have to keep repeating female. And actually kind of a bad word to use because it means spinning wheel. It's a way of saying all women do is sew. Anyway, this particular woman rides a mean motorcycle and keeps her round red satin bed ready at all times, but because she's seducing Sonny Chiba, you never know whether he wants sex or not, or whether he's just putting up with it.
Also, chat. Also, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Have any of you ever seen the original Teenage Wolf with Michael J. Fox? I love that movie. I love Michael J. Fox. Fantastic in Back to the Future. Another one of my favorite movie series. But Teenage Wolf, I remember Michael J. Fox doing a really good job with that. And it's actually more of like a comedy than a horror movie. But, you know, I diverse.
Because talk about a poker face. It was actually part of Sonny's theory of acting that you don't need the face. You act with your whole body. Now, of course, an action star would say this. But he said the real test of an actor is you turn your back on the camera and the audience can still be able to read your emotions. The problem with Akira Inugami, his character in the movie, is that he only has wolf emotions, whatever those are. So his sidekick informant in the previous scene even calls him Wolf. You know, the scene where they're figuring out the problem, which is that apparently some jerks in a boy band gangbanged a singer and gave her syphilis. And so now she's pissed and she turns into a tiger demon and focuses her hatred on their bodies and they explode in bloody agony from her hatred. Isn't that basically what they were saying? It makes sense. And we know it's a tiger demon because of that terrifying tiger seen relaxing in profile as though maybe he's posing at the zoo, which is seen floating over the streets of Tokyo. They weren't big on special effects at Toei Studios in the 70s. Anyway, you already love this movie, don't you? Because A, nonstop action, B, Yakuza gangs in leisure suits, C, spontaneous combustion of gang rapist musicians, and D, inspired subtitles like, you smell like an animal too. All right, it's already strange, but it's going to get a lot stranger, so back to the movie. This is Sonny Chiba at the height of his fame. Came out in 1975. That's just 1 year after he made his breakthrough movie, The Street Fighter, because we were still in the Bruce Lee period. Bruce Lee died in 1973, but his movies were still coming out in 1974, and so everybody was trying to hire the next Bruce Lee. But at an exploitation studio in Japan, that means doing the opposite of Bruce Lee's character, because Bruce Lee was always doing classical kung fu and Shaolin martial arts and defending his honor and rescuing his friends from danger. Sonny Chiba, nothing classical about this guy. He uses fists, feet, guns, knives, random objects, fights dirty, karate, judo, kenpo, absolutely no Bruce Lee ballet fighting style shit. And he's a mercenary. He'll take any job for money. So he makes 4 Street Fighter films, and they all come out in the year 1974. All 4 of them. That's how fast they made sequels in Japan. They were so popular that Sonny Chiba spent the next 20 years fighting the Yakuza and having sex with all the pretty girls in Japan. 125 films, all at Toei Studios. Mr. Macho lives in LA now, still working. And he says that if you want to be an actor, the first thing you have to do is train your abs. This is his advice for anybody being any kind of actor. He doesn't just mean action actors, he means any actor. The first thing you have to do is train your abs. Get a six-pack. He really does say that. So directors can use your body. And, you know, I admire Sonny Chiba, and that's the way I train for this show, actually. And that's why they call me Two-Pack.
Joe Bob, working on the six-pack. We're sipping on some Arnold Palmer tonight. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, half and half, iced tea and lemonade.
Fighting the Yakuza with assorted pocket change. Who would do that except the great Sonny Chiba? He had an injury, and so he went into martial arts instead. He's known in Japan for an acting school called the Japanese Action Club, which is where you study if you want to be an action hero. We don't have that over here. Although I think it's a very cool idea, especially for injured athletes like Chiba, whose careers are over. You know, okay, can't play football anymore. I'll learn to fake fight on camera, which is very difficult to do, by the way. All right, let's talk about how Wolf Guy happened. In October of 1969, this writer named Kazumasa Hirai published a short story called Vice School. Vice School was about a middle school student who was part wolf, and he fought against the bullies in school, and his name was Akira Inugami. And as I mentioned before, Inugami are supernatural dog spirits. Okay, a month later, and this is a typical Japanese thing, the same writer publishes a novel called I Am a Wolf, with the same character, Akira Inugami, but this time he's not a kid. He's much older and much tougher. He's a gritty urban guy out on the mean streets of Tokyo. So you've got 2 wolf guys right from the beginning. And then Kazumasa Hirai continues to write 2 separate wolf guy series, one about the middle school wolf kid called Young Wolf Guy, and the other one called Adult Wolf Guy. And he wrote these series well into the 90s because they were so wildly popular. He was a famous guy in Japan. So Toho Studios gets the rights to the teenage wolf guy, and they make a movie in 1973 called Crest of the Wolf. But Toei Studios buys the adult version because they're always looking for material for Sonny Chiba. They can't make enough Sonny Chiba films. He's their guy. And one of the journeyman B-movie directors at Toei is Kazuhiko Yamaguchi, who already knew Chiba from the days before either one of them was famous. He met him on a movie in the 60s called Golden Bat. And he had worked with him on Wandering Ginza Butterfly 2, She-Cat Gambler. One of the greatest titles in film history. You want to hear that again? Wandering Ginza Butterfly 2, She-Cat Gambler. And so Ginza was the nightlife district of Tokyo. So it's a description of a wicked, badass lady. Yamaguchi kind of specialized in sex. He made a film called Ghost Cat Secret Bathhouse, another great title. Unfortunately, never released in the U.S. He was also known for his humor, which comes in handy when you're working in the B-movie unit, charged with grinding out second features. But he made 9 karate films with Sonny Chiba between 1974 and 1977. His claim to fame, though, was the series Delinquent Girl Boss, which is just what it sounds like, reform school girls kicking ass. So they bring Adult Wolf Guy to Yamaguchi, and he looks at the story and he says, I don't get this. Is this even worth making? he had never heard of the manga that it was based on. Manga is the Japanese word for graphic novel. Graphic novel is the American word for comic book, okay? And everybody said, you're crazy. This is one of the most popular stories in Japan. You got to make this. And so he says, well, we need a lot of special effects to do this. And they told him, no money for special effects. Just work it out on the set. And this was kind of the motto between Yamaguchi and Chiba for all the movies they made together. Figure it out on set. Figure out some physical way to do every effect. And so Yamaguchi doesn't really want to make the movie. His producer thinks it's just filler in between more important movies. They don't have enough money to actually turn Sonny Chiba into a wolf. And so what it becomes is a virtual cornucopia of stunts and practical effects, because their theory was just keep it moving. Don't let up for a second. It's the only way to sell this. Plus, they used all these locations in the notorious Kabukicho district of Tokyo, which is where all the strip shows and porn theaters and arcades were located. And after they finished the movie, they invited the writer of the original manga, Kazumasa Hirai, to the first screening. And after it was over, they turned on the lights, and he was gone. He'd vanished from the screening room. And so they asked the usher, what happened to Hirai? And apparently, he only watched 15 minutes and left. And then he told Yamaguchi he was going to sue, and that Toei Studios could never again touch anything that Hirai wrote. And Yamaguchi gleefully tells this story. All right. Back to the movie. Oh, Yamaguchi also talks about how Sonny Chiba couldn't really act, but he had all these great ideas for stunts, and so he would always listen to it. And he would say, Sonny, yeah, that's an interesting stunt, but that sounds dangerous. And Sonny would say, okay, well, all right, we'll do it once and see if it's dangerous. And if it's dangerous, we'll do it a different way for takes 2, 3, and 4. Which is, that's exactly what the Occupational Safety Board recommends. If you find anything on a work site that might be dangerous, try it one time to find out if it's dangerous. This is why these Japanese karate movies are so great.
Next segment break, 50 minutes into Wolf Guy.
Well, I guess we're officially in the what the fuck part of the movie, aren't we? Sonny Chiba tells Miki, the strung-out, heroin-addicted, syphilitic cabaret stripper, that he's a reporter. I thought he was a cop. What the fuck? But actually, now that I think of it, we had that scene where the cops question him as a suspect, so he can't be a cop. So what is he? He's Wolf Guy. But why is he trying to solve the syphilitic rock band gang rape plot that creates Tiger Claw revenge and strippers? And then he tries to have sex with her to prove that, no, baby, men still want your body, even though you do have syphilis. But she kicks him out of bed because apparently syphilis makes it impossible to feel anything during sex. Which brings up another WTF, which is, we're learning way too much about syphilis in this movie. Did they not have penicillin in Japan? And then there's the whole flashback to Sonny Chiba's explaining how he's the last wolf, but only on the 15th day of the lunar cycle as his eyes fill up with tears, which is the only time in the movie that he uses his face, leading to one of the greatest subtitles in Japanese subtitle history. There is a nastier pathogen than syphilis. It's the one they call hatred of humans. So that the rest of the movie should be called Kill All Humans. And then there's the WTF action sequence where the gunman is going to kill Miki while she's sleeping. The wolf guy happens to be in her closet, so he can leap out, plug up the gun with a spike, kung fu the would-be killer, only to be distracted by the old white mouse diversion, and
Kung
get
Fu
lassoed,
the killer.
creating a double lasso, double-hanging tug of war before the assassin is shot in the back just in the nick of time by a new guy with a bad mustache who represents a group of people who file in, including Motorcycle Babe from earlier who wanted to fornicate with an animal, and she says, it's been a while. Well, actually, it hadn't been a while. It's only a few scenes since they were both naked, making the sound of the double-pronged tuna expedition. But we don't know what the deal is yet because she has Akira and Miki knocked out with chloroform. You'll be pleased to know, I think, that the weird movie is yet to come. Roll it. I would have liked to have been at the story meeting where they worked up all these plot points, The director, Kazuhiko Yamaguchi, said he never really understood the story. He just knew the manga comic book was really popular and that the character was supposed to be a wolf. He didn't have the money to actually change him into a wolf. He'd never seen a werewolf movie. They weren't available. So he would go with whatever Sonny Chiba suggested.
Didn't have the money to change him into a werewolf, and also never seen a werewolf movie, so they're just gonna take whatever Sonny Chiba suggests and run with it.
He tried to get Chiba to smile, and he refused. Chiba said that wouldn't be scary, and Yamaguchi said no, it might be more scary. And he got him to try it once, but he ultimately rejected the idea. So you got a wolf man who looks like a somber guy in a business suit and a trench coat, and he gets in a lot of fights. How do you show he's a wolf? Well, you don't. You just keep saying he's a wolf. And so the audience thinks, okay, yeah, he's getting his wolf powers now. Here's some amazing paranormal wonderment coming up. When really he's just doing Jackie Chan stunts. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to, because it's Wolf Guy. But it'd be like you're making Rambo, okay? But every 15 minutes, some guy comes on to say, actually, Sylvester Stallone is a cyborg. That's why they can't kill him. And then the movie continues. So you're making an action movie, but you're claiming it's a werewolf movie. And we're buying that.
Jackie Chan, ladies and gentlemen, another one of my favorite actors. Shout out to Jackie Chan. Amazing stunt performer, amazing actor, especially here in America. I hope you are ready for some kinky she-wolf sex, because that is exactly what we are getting in the movie Wolf Guy. I need a shirt with Sonny Chiba. I need a shirt with Sonny Chiba's face. And then beneath it, it just has the Hulk Hogan slogan. Doesn't work for me, brother. Next segment break, an hour and 5 minutes.
Those wily secret agents at the CIA, the Cabinet Intelligence Agency, and their cruel experimental surgery have gone way beyond modern science and proved that people can be murdered by a grudge. It reminds me of the movie, well, of course, the first movie it reminds me of is the 2003 Japanese haunted house movie, The Grudge, or Ju-on, The Grudge, which was remade in 2004 as a big-budget English language film with Sarah Michelle Gellar. But that's not what I was thinking of. Anybody remember the movie Breaker Breaker in the 70s? Chuck Norris, first starring role. He's a truck-driving karate master fighting the mob. And the poster said he had an 18-wheeler and a grudge. Fortunately, one of the advantages of being the wolf guy is that you can retract your surgically removed intestines back into your colonic cavity with your mind and then escape from a booby-trapped secret medical facility where kung fu assassins are multiple laundry chutes, especially if you're helped by confused motorcycle babe Katie, who knows how to inject poison gas into the facility and renew her affection for Wolf Guy, presumably because she just can't get that animal sex out of her mind until she dies in his arms and he's confronted by alter ego Wolf Guy, who's been injected with wolf blood and can now mimic any martial arts move that Wolf Guy does, including leaping through the air and vaporizing in an orange mist and then reappearing at the end of his somersault so that Wolf Guy and Synthetic Wolf Guy can engage in a double choke before Synthetic Wolf Guy ends up twitching in the misty rain, evidence that wolves and humans can never mix, and actually disputing the Roman origin story of Romulus and Remus. But then again, if you ask Yamaguchi, the director, what he thinks of Wolf Guy, he says, I don't know what to make of it. I didn't really want to make that film. They want that overseas? Really? This happens a lot with the Japanese films that make it in the West. They want that one? And yeah, we want that one, because just when you think the action can't get any zanier, we meet Wolf Guy's mother again. Remember what I said about suckling? We're about to suckle as we approach the stupefying climax of Wolf Guy. Roll it. And if you talk to Sonny Chiba today, he'll tell you, I regret that all they ever let me do was action movies. I mean, the guy made 200 movies, almost all of them for Toei Studios, until he made Kill Bill for Quentin Tarantino. That's the Western movie he's known for. But I don't know what else he could have done. I mean, do you really want to see Sonny Chiba in a romantic comedy? Sonny Chiba has to be with a hooker. You know what I mean? Or Sonny Chiba in outer space. You know, you can't put a spacesuit on Sonny Chiba's athletic body. What's the point of that? Sonny Chiba has to be staring people down in a sketchy alley behind a cheap casino, beating up pimps and Yakuza hitmen and snarling a lot. Sonny snarls. If Sonny Chiba is not kicking ass, there is no Sonny Chiba. He's a perfect Zen ass-kicking entity. If you look up ass-kicking in the dictionary, there's a picture of Sonny Chiba. If anybody was ever in a studio meeting and they said, maybe we should show Sonny Chiba's sensitive side, they would have just stared at him like an alien creature. He has no sensitive side. Sure, he wants to save Miki, but only because he knows he'll have to kick some ass while doing it. Sonny Chiba walks down the streets of Tokyo, people just bend over automatically, sticking their asses up in the air, hoping Sonny will kick their ass instead of somebody else's ass. I mean, you can't screw with that. I want him to kick my ass.
Sonny Chiba has to be kicking some ass in the movies. And next segment break after the end credits.
And so ends Wolf Guy, Enraged Lycanthrope, with Sonny Chiba hoisting his dead wife, mother, lover, midwife onto his back and hurling a rifle into the canyon. A, my head is exploding from the symbolism. B, I'm not sure what the symbolism means. And C, that was the kinkiest sex scene in the history of horror, even by the standards of Japanese crazy. You know, somebody asked Kazuhiko Yamaguchi about the casting of the character of Taka, the traitorous wolf lover he falls in love with there at the end. And Yamaguchi goes, obvious, big breasts. You know, because she has to suckle, right? So that actress is Yayoi Watanabe, and he had previously worked with her in his women in prison movies like Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion. And anyway, she's the only surviving lover of the wolf people, named after his mother, offering him her body, and he goes right for the nipple as the soft porn music plays. And then she says she's his wife, and actually the wife of all the wolf people. Didn't she say something like that? And so she's basically saying, fertilize me now. But it's too late. She's taken down by the grudge ESP of the spurned Miki. And by the way, when did Miki fall in love with Wolf Guy? Didn't she tell him to go to hell when he tried to have syphilitic sex with her? And he didn't escape from the Nazi medical center with Miki. He escaped with the red dress motorcycle babe, right? Who was also in love with him. One look at Wolf Guy and the babes just dropped their panties. In this one movie, Sonny Chiba fights ninjas, the Yakuza, assassins, paramilitary forces, rifle squads, the Japanese CIA, Nazi-like doctors, and a surgically created half-wolf, half-man infused with his own blood. And all that time, he's a wolf in a business suit. They put out a Blu-ray of this film not that long ago, 2017, and they went back and interviewed Yamaguchi and the producer, Toru Yoshiba, and neither one of those guys could remember that much about the film. And neither one of them had recently watched it, and neither one of them thought that anyone could possibly be interested in it. And they also interviewed Sonny Chiba, only he forgot to talk about the movie. Maybe because he didn't remember the movie. At any rate, it must have been a lot of fun to work in the B-movie division of Toei Studios. One of 9 movies that Sonny Chiba made in that one year.
Mid-70s.
Right. Every time we have a wolf-themed movie, come on out, Darcy. Every time we have a wolf-themed movie, we have to mention
Darcy, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely male girl.
It's Synthetic Wolf Guy.
Tis indeed.
Dead Ringer, good cosplay. Many of you remember that last fall we had Michael Berryman on the show when we were featuring The Hills Have Eyes, and Darcy bought a cool Michael Berryman action figure that Michael signed while he was on the show, and we were going to use it on the set. And Darcy said, no, let's auction it off to save the wolves, because Michael was a big wolf lover. He's been involved with wolf preservation all his life. And that was very cool that you did that, Darcy.
I'm happy we were able to help.
So we thought, we would put it on eBay, and we thought maybe we'd get $100 for it, or maybe $300, How much did we raise for the wolves?
We raised $1,050.
Wow.
$1,050 for the wolves.
A lot of you that
round of applause for Darcy, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't have that kind of money. Once it went over a certain amount, I can't get involved in an auction like that. But I want to help the wolves anyway. And so many of you made donations to Seacrest, And the reason we chose that particular wolf sanctuary is that they got hit by Hurricane Michael, and it knocked out a lot of their infrastructure, and some wolves had to be rescued, and they were just having a bad time. So if you still want to help, go to their website, seacrestwolfpreserve.org. It's in Chipley, Florida, and give them some wolf money. That must have been very satisfying. That
It
whole
was
thing.
amazing that we got to help them out that way.
And you're looking very wolfy.
Why, thank you, sir.
What was the name of the high bidder for the Berryman doll? We should give her credit too. I just know her. She's Liz on Twitter.
She's amazing. She's Elizabeth Thurston of Reedsville, North Carolina, and we love her.
Carolina people, your people.
My people.
Wolf Guy, you like Wolf Guy? Like it?
I
Don't
do.
like it?
Yeah.
You've been to Japan.
I have.
You're like a Japanophile, sort of, right? What do you call Japan lovers? Wapanese? Weeaboo?
I always wanted to go there, and then I had a chance to go check out Crispin Glover's show, and I just had to.
Oh, I forgot. You traveled to Japan to see Crispin Glover present his movies because he doesn't live in like Los Angeles where you live.
I mean, in Japan and Crispin Glover passed that up.
Okay, and what did the Japanese think of Crispin?
Oh, the whole world loves Crispin.
Well, and you know Crispin, right? So would he come on the show if we showed Willard or something?
It's a possibility.
Ask him, okay?
Okay.
He does a lot of Alamo Draft House events, and I also do Alamo Draft House, and sometimes I'll show up a few days after Crispin's been there, and the manager will be like, whoa, Crispin was here. I don't know what they mean.
He does really long shows.
Oh, okay.
Really long.
All right. Well, tell Crispin we need him, all right?
I will. Would you like some mail?
Yes, hit me hard with the mail.
I will.
Here we go.
This is an email that came from Molly Henry of Lebanon, Oregon, but she's known online as the blogging banshee.
What is a banshee, anyway? People are always screaming like banshees, but I don't even know what a banshee scream sounds like, or what a banshee is, or why a banshee would scream. Anyway, I digress. All right. Hi, Joe Bob. My name is Molly, and I'm a film critic and lifelong horror fan. I also just finished my master's degree program and hope to become a published horror author and eventually write horror film screenplays. Can you get a master's in horror? You'd have to go to Bard College or something. Bard College is kind of like, they don't have majors. You do Build-A-Bear for your major. You just grab courses here and there, and you say, I'm majoring in horror screenplays. And they go, okay, cool with us. I wanted to send a very heartfelt thank you. This year I was all by myself for Thanksgiving. Watching Dinners of Death with you hosting and all the live tweeting from fans during the marathon made me feel like I wasn't alone. Your passion and knowledge for the genre and your sense of humor made it a great Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for spending your holiday with us horror fans. Molly Henry, the blogging banshee. That's good to know because we really punished people with that Dinners of Death thing. I mean, we start out, I talk about 9 hours about Texas Chainsaw. I was on screen more minutes than Leatherface. And then we asked people to watch 3 more movies after that. And one of them is kind of Japanese torture porn.
It was all awesome, though.
And you were great with the social media, though. You both Thanksgiving and Christmas, you were tweeting and Instagramming every 3 seconds.
Now, one thing I do want to add, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to cover the Joe Bob holiday specials when it comes to that point. Again, the reason we're on season 4 right now in August is so that way in September we can move on to the next season. In October, we're going to cover most of the Halloween specials. November, most of the Thanksgiving specials. And then, of course, December, the Christmas specials. So that is still to come for us.
It was monstrous and bring me all that hate mail because we didn't show Christmas movies.
I told you people were going to be disappointed.
Phantasm is Christmassy. I still maintain that. Killer Christmas.
Now, we
orange.
did cover the
That's what those stories look
Phantasm.
They really wanted Black Christmas or Silent Night. Deadly
We
Night.
did cover the
like.
Phantasm
Next year,
stuff.
okay? Because you guys just beat me into submission.
But there is still tons of Christmas specials to be had here with Joe Bob. So stay tuned for that.
Never let up.
Aw, it's just because we love you.
Prove it. Make Crispin Glover come on the show.
I'm so on it, boss.
Can I do Catholic jokes?
You can.
This is actually a Catholic joke and a Jewish joke, okay? A priest gets called away for an emergency, but he doesn't want to leave the confessional unattended, so he calls his rabbi friend from across the street and asks him to cover for him. The rabbi comes over and he says, well, I wouldn't know what to say in a Catholic confessional. The priest says, look, it's easy. Just sit in the confessional with me and observe. So a few minutes later, a woman comes in and she says, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. And the priest says, what did you do? And the woman says, I committed adultery. And the priest goes, how many times? And the woman says, 3 times. And the priest says, say 2 Hail Marys, put $5 in the box, go and sin no more. A few minutes later, a man enters the confessional. He says, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. The priest says, what did you do? He says, I committed adultery. How many times? 3 times. The priest says, say 2 Hail Marys, put $5 in the box, go and sin no more. So the rabbi sees this and he tells the priest, okay, I think I've got it. So the priest leaves. A few minutes later, another woman comes in and says, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. The rabbi says, what did you do? The woman says, I committed adultery. The rabbi says, how many times? The woman goes, once. The rabbi goes, go do it 2 more times. We have a special this week, 3 for $5.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. We will be right back with episode 8, where Joe Bob is going to talk about the movie Demon Wind. Hopefully you all enjoyed that last episode. We'll take about a 1.5, 2 minute break right now. Everybody out there, go get yourself some popcorn. Go get yourself some ice cream. Maybe you're like me and sipping on a little Arnold Palmer tonight, little half and half iced tea lemonade. Get yourself a drink, and we will be right back for episode 8 of The Last Drive-In Season 4, 2019, with Joe Bob Briggs. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves, it is time to continue this watch-along episode. Joe Bob going to talk about the movie Demon Wind. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoy.
Jesse Duplantis has a church in Destrehan, Louisiana. And he was praying to God one night, and God told him to buy a $54 million corporate jet called a Falcon 7X with church funds. Because the Falcon 7X has a 5,000-mile range, and God didn't want Jesse having to stop and refuel when he's on his way to Timbuktu to evangelize the world. Jesse Duplantis also wears yellow plaid shirts with navy polyester sport coats, and his hair is turned white as a Norwegian albino, but he still beeswaxes it up like Elvis. We're going to try to get Jesse some help.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know the rules. We can't play the theme song, just in case YouTube wants to copyright claim us. But of course, The Last Drive-In is presented by Shudder. Shout out to Shudder. And we will unmute the audio as soon as we get back into the episode. Take a sip of the Arnold Palmer. Half and half. Iced tea and lemonade. Can't go wrong. And we are ready.
Okay, first of all, you need to know that the Demon Wind that we're showing tonight is not the fart documentary called Demon Wind that was made by the 4th grade class at Brady Elementary School in Little Rock, Arkansas. That one is actually a good movie. They had the whole chart of the digestive tract and the science behind the lighting of farts and everything. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, by the way, and this is week 5 of The Last Drive-In. They hadn't canceled us yet. And with me tonight is Darcy the Mail Girl to field your tweets and emails. Well, except for you, Randy. Yes, you know who I'm talking about. You cannot write to the show anymore. We had a little incident with Randy. You can write to the show if you delete those pictures and you promise to never send us anything like that again. So anyway, write to Darcy the Mail Girl and I'll get your messages. But what I was saying is that The Demon Wind we're showing tonight is a 1990 flick about a dimwit who goes to an abandoned house with 9 of his sheep-like friends in order to investigate the 1931 death of his grandma in a satanic rite. Maybe. I mean, I think that's what the movie is about. It has a lot of plot getting in the way of the story. Stuff about how the demon armies of Satan are supposed to behave. And we actually went through a series of meetings here at Shudder before we decided to show this movie. And we decided that, yes, human knowledge would be advanced by analyzing the various kill scenes and the backstory on the various types of demons, or maybe zombies, we're not quite sure, that populate the film. And that was a very painful decision. But we made it, and we stand by it. Don't you love it when CEOs and public officials and celebrities say that? You know, we made a painful decision today. Like they were writhing around in their Corinthian leather chairs, screaming in agony. Somebody calls a press conference and they start out, regrettably, we've made the painful decision. You may be shocked to learn it's not the guy getting fired who's in pain. It's the guy who fired him. He's in pain. It's not the 1,000 workers being laid off who are experiencing discomfort. We him off. He's in pain. It's not the family members of the missing person who are in unbearable agony. It's that police official calling off the search. See, all of our assumptions about how pain works are apparently wrong. You know, it's an adult version of the old, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, which is what your daddy says before he wails the crap out of you. You know, well, guess what? It doesn't hurt daddy more than it hurts you. And it doesn't hurt the guy who goes back to the executive suite and downs a couple of single malts either. It's actually the apex of being a self-centered creep to say, don't look at the situation here and the people that are about to get nuked. Look at me, damn it, I'm a tortured sadist. So I guess I just did that. Instead of saying, here's the movie, I had to go and say, this was a painful decision that we made. You know, there's a guy named John McTaggart, the president of Minnesota Public Radio. He's so good at the painful decision, he made 2 of them in 1 month. The first one was he fired Garrison Keillor, a painful decision, he said, one that we did not make lightly. And then when Garrison was not sufficiently remorseful, he held a press conference to make yet another painful decision to release the details of his investigation into Garrison's conduct. This was a guy experiencing so much pain on our behalf, he had to kill the guy twice. And remember James Comey? He made that painful decision to reopen the Hillary Clinton email investigation 11 days before the election. It was so painful for James, I can't possibly understand why Hillary is still talking about it today. Doesn't she recognize the Shakespearean anguish of law enforcement officials? Oh, and who doesn't feel sorry for Lena Dunham, the actress who made the painful decision to send her adopted dog, Lambie, back to the shelter after he'd already become accustomed to living with her for 4 years. I'm surprised Lena didn't have to check into the asylum. Her body was racked by excruciating emotional pain. Lambie, on the other hand, was spared any further emotional shock from watching Lena copulate with tattooed geeky boys. So maybe it was for the best. What we need to realize is that pain abounds mostly among the employed and the powerful. Like Congressman Mike Kaufman and his wife, Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, made a joint painful decision after much soul searching. I forgot the soul searching part, by the way. All painful decisions are accompanied by soul searching. So the Kaufmans searched their souls and decided on a divorce after 12 years of marriage. Now, if you're going to announce a painful decision, especially one that would normally remain private, you should probably go ahead and give details. You know, why was it painful? Did Mike leave the toilet seat up? Did Cynthia have a one-night stand with a beefcake stripper from the Thunder Down Under all-male review? If you want us to empathize with your pain, come on, let's go. Give it up. Spill. In fact, if we ever establish rules for painful decisions, can we just get rid of the end of relationship press conference? I know it was a painful decision to throw all this stuff out on the street. We could probably go on Facebook on any given day and find 17 million painful decisions involving two people who decide eternal love has turned into blotchy mascara and scenes where you say, I never liked your mother either. You know, a woman named Megan Webb wrote a widely circulated article about her painful decision at age 32 to stop teaching elementary school in Palm Beach, Florida, and get a job that pays more. When she gets that first check with the additional 50% income, she might be in so much pain that she'll have to move somewhere less affluent than like Beverly Hills. Now, sometimes even whole organizations can experience pain. If you go to the website of MedNet of Maine, a PPO for healthcare, you get the following message. MedNet has made the painful decision to close our doors. All the people who can no longer afford to go to the doctor are presumably sending wreaths and letters of condolence to MedNet headquarters. Superstar entertainers probably make more painful decisions than any other single group. Toni Braxton, she made the painful decision to break away from her sisters and go solo. Lionel Richie, he made the painful decision to leave the Commodores. Every time a musician switches labels or an actor changes managers, the decision is so damn painful that all the people who are thrown out of work because the star went somewhere else are no doubt ashamed of being alive, since their devotion to that person's career resulted in so much agony. The same thing with sports teams, too. They're always making painful decisions to get rid of this player or that player. The New York Giants made the painful decision to cut Victor Cruz. The Yankees had to make the painful decision not to give Alex Rodriguez all his bonuses in his final year.
The Sabres made the painful decision to trade away Jack Eichel. Next season, he goes off, wins a Stanley Cup. Fans here in Buffalo want to boo the shit out of him. They're idiots. Jack Eichel did nothing wrong. He did everything he could for the Buffalo Sabres. It was the Sabres management who were the fucking idiots and traded him to a team that is actually playing for a championship, a team that is actually qualifying for the playoffs, the Vegas Golden Knights. Same thing with Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart got traded to the Florida Panthers. What happened? Won a Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers.
Painful decisions in professional sports make me feel sorry for those masochistic owners. They bought those teams apparently not knowing that the average career of a basketball player is 5.5 years, and the average for that's for a baseball player, and the average for a basketball player is 4.8 years, and the average for an NFL football player is a mere 3.3 years. So that results in such a revolving door of painful decisions that most of those billionaire franchise owners end up in pain management programs at the Mayo Clinic. You know what, though? I'm always puzzled when a city council or a legislature or a judge makes a painful decision. Of having city councils, legislatures, and judges is to make frickin' decisions, you know? That's like taking a job as a swimming instructor and then saying, you know, the troublesome thing about this job is that I have to get wet every day. Because what people really mean when they say painful decision is decision. You know, the unpainful decisions are not decisions. You know, we don't care about your pain because it's not pain. I'm surprised I have to explain these things. Okay, let's plunge into Demon Wind, the old familiar story of the portal to hell that exists inside an old burned out house that's been sitting on the prairie for 60 years, waiting for the grandson of a cult-worshiping pioneer woman who gets exploded by her goop-vomiting husband to return with his 9 closest friends for a weekend of funsies at the old farm, which the creepy gas station owner says not to visit because it's owned by the dead people. Did I say that right? I think I said that right. That's the plot. We have 58 dead bodies, 2 breasts, 4 dead car batteries,
2
1
breasts,
ghost diner, 1 haunted
4 dead
California
car
ghost
batteries,
house, 1 porn star demon, 3 mass zombie horde attacks, 47 gallons of slime glopola, 1 pus-encrusted super zombie, burning cross body nailing, hand mangling, forehead burning, strangulation, wrist slashing, 3-pronged hot poker penetration, pointy fingers through the forehead, cackling zombie neck biting, 1 lame fist fight, actually more of a sucker punch, 2 satanic earthquakes, chest splitting, gaping throat slashing, multiple nightmare flashbacks, demon breast pawing, demonic children with spirit sticks and supernatural strength, multiple maggot close-ups, exploding super demon, zombie groin kicking, random skulls and skeletons, exploding house with fire, flying crockery, levitating meat cleaver, off-screen child sacrifice, dove tossing with poop, lasagna tongue bimbo crushing, irradiating waitress, heads roll, hands roll, kung fu, beer can foo, fang foo, snow globe foo, Latin foo, fog foo, dagger foo, pentagram foo. Drive-In Academy Award nominations for Kim Santel as the creepy waitress who says, we have beer, Coke, water, and goat's milk. Bobby Johnston as the stud who kisses all the girls. Eric Larson as Corey, the main character who is motivated by the suicide of his father, which was caused by his family disappearing 4 days after he was born, who has ESP and knows how to walk through empty doors into other dimensions, for saying, I conjure thee, O Delos, protect my child from the evil touch. Rise now, approach me. Rufus Norris as the spooky gun-toting gas station owner who says, take your friends and go home now. Sherry Bendorf as Bonnie, the girl who gets turned into a doll and then bursts into flame. Jack Vogel as a shotgun-toting magician, and Stephen Quadros as his kung fu homie, and Charles Philip Moore, the writer-director who made 4 movies and then was never seen again, for blessing us with his legacy. I'm going to give it 3 stars. Just
3
for
stars.
the sheer audacity of special effects. Joe Bob says, check it out.
Joe Bob appreciates
You know,
the
the
special
problem
effects. Got 3
The title
stars.
like Demon Wind, besides reminding you of farts, you know, is that the wind is just not that scary. You know, plus it reminds you of Gone with the Wind, or just The Wind. Remember that Lillian Gish? It was a silent film. Doesn't she get buried in a West Texas dust storm or something? But see, that's that's not about the wind. It's about the crud inside the wind in West Texas. Plus, it's hard to show wind in the movies unless you have one of those giant wind machines that blows everybody's hair horizontal. And even then, it's like, oh, I guess it's windy. You know, actually, The Wizard of Oz is about demon wind, isn't it? Dorothy and Toto, they get caught in a tornado, which is basically demon wind. No tornadoes in this movie, though. Would have been better if they did a twister thing with the wind. Remember Bill Paxton? He chases the tornado across Oklahoma. That was the only time a movie got a PG-13 rating for bad weather. That was the official reason of the MPAA. Intense weather might be frightening to children. Actually, I don't even think there's any wind in the movie. There's fog, now that I think about it. There's no wind in the movie, much less demon wind, much less tornado level wind that frightens the MPAA. So the title must be metaphorical. I just missed it.
All right, first segment break at 26:26.
That was some excellent beer can foo. I don't think I've ever seen a martial arts beer can flipping demonstration like that. In fact, I think there were 7 or 8 things in these opening scenes I've never seen in any movie before, including death by snow globe, the maggot and worm thing, spooky little girl's feet, the flashback dream where Corey shows off his naked buttocks while his grandmother scares him with an open neck wound, a gas station that looks like it was stapled onto the grass in a random location, an old coot with crazy white eyebrows that look like they sprouted in a greenhouse at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, a diner where a waitress with dementia serves beer, Coke, water, and ghost milk, a loudmouth jock who kisses random girls in the cast on the lips, leading to a gratuitous small penis insult, a complicated backstory told by 3 different people involving bad weather, a cult, black blood, a drunk father who was at the hospital in an incubator when the bad stuff happened, a bunch of religious music and pictures of Jesus, a third-rate Siegfried and Roy magician act that drives around in a baby blue convertible and works with rabbits and doves that can poop on cue, and of course the aforementioned martial arts projectile beer can kung fu kickboxing. And also, what's with a Jack character in that retro brown suit that looks like he bought it at Buster Keaton's estate sale? We are now totally in the hands of writer-director Charles Philip Moore. Where are you, Chuck? Where did you go? We need you now more than ever. Okay, back to the movie. You know, I wonder if they'll go to the old Carter farm. You know, because the Lee Marvin-looking eyebrow guy told him 3 times, don't go up there. So maybe they won't go, right? That actor, by the way, that said that, that's Rufus Norris, artistic director of the National Theatre in London. Only kidding. Different Rufus Norris. But I pointed out, to repeat my oft-repeated point, you guys need to stop trusting stuff on the internet. There are people who actually believe, yeah, Rufus Norris, he now runs the Royal National Theatre of Great Britain. He's in charge of all 4 of those massive auditoriums on the south bank of the Thames. But in his formative years, he was the creepy gas station attendant in Demon Wind. You can see the future promise in the way he sticks that pistol in Dell's face. You know, these internet guys, they just drive me crazy.
Next segment break for the movie Demon Wind, 37 minutes.
Okay, when you walk through the flimsy door of the flimsy burned out house where the flimsy bleached skeleton on the flimsy cross has just fallen down, you enter another space-time dimension, I guess. Charles Philip Moore, the writer-director, is one of those guys that when people talk about him, they just say, he left town. Nobody knows where he is. But this was the first of 4 movies that he made, and the reason he got the job is that he was the second assistant director on a movie called Twisted Nightmare, and Twisted Nightmare was made by a company called United Filmmakers, which was 3 guys. Paul Hunt, in the late 60s, early 70s, and Michael Bennett and Sandy Horowitz, who were typical promoter guys of the period. And they would go around the country schmoozing the theater owners and making regional deals. So United Filmmakers was planning to make 2 movies, The Clones and Twisted Nightmare. But halfway through shooting the second movie, Charles Philip Moore pitches him on this movie, and they were very impressed by his enthusiasm. He was kind of a goofy guy, he looked like a hippie, but he was so deep into horror that he talked him into making Demon Wind. And then as soon as they hired him, they thought, what did we just do? We're making a movie with a guy who spent most of his career as a grip. But they just shot Chuck's script. He went by Chuck. They shot it as is. And somehow Chuck never got the memo about how you do the young people going into the spooky woods story, which is what this is. Because first of all, Chuck, wherever you are, it's 4 people who go into the woods, not 9 people. Secondly, the 4 people have to look different. They can't be all the same age and the same social class and the same hair color. And you definitely can't have 9 people who all look alike and tend to huddle together in every scene as though there's only one character being expressed in 9 bodies. And finally, Chuck, they have to have a reason to be going into the woods, or in this case, the barren wilderness of Thousand Oaks, California. The reason can't be, I have to find out what happened to my grandparents. Something happened, I have to know the reason why. That's not a reason. We're talking about something that happened 60 years ago, at least 30 years before this guy was born, and all his friends are saying, yeah, sounds like fun. Let's go spend several days driving to nowhere in an attempt to figure out how they died. And besides, you need us. So we're there for you, buddy. Why would you say he needs them? I mean, he's on a dead grandmother mission. It's the equivalent of saying, let's go antiquing. You need us for that. Which, by the way, never say, let's go antiquing to me. Other than those things, great movie. So let's continue. Chuck would go on to make 3 more movies. Black Belt, starring my buddy Don the Dragon Wilson. Dance with Death, the one about the hot reporter who gets a job as a stripper so she can solve a string of stripper homicides. And one of my personal favorites, Angel of Destruction. That's the one I've talked about before that was supposed to star Charlie Spradling. When they got over to the Philippines, Charlie refused to do her kung fu in the nude scenes. And so producer Roger Corman ordered a quick rewrite, had Charlie's character killed off, put Maria Ford on a plane to the Philippines the same day while they were writing a new part for her to be the vengeance-seeking sister trying to find out who killed her sibling. And of course, in order to do that, she had to do kung fu in the nude. You know what a great actress you have to be totally prepared to do kung fu in the nude on 24 hours notice? I mean, you train your whole life waiting for that call. And Maria Ford was ready. She was ready in spirit. She got off that plane. She walked onto a set in a strange country, and she kicked ass, naked. She kicked ass while showing ass. You know, Cynthia Rothrock never did that. Hell, Bruce Lee never did that. Although I wouldn't want to see Bruce Lee's ass, but maybe I would.
Next segment break. 47 minutes.
Okay, is anybody following this? So the ghost house follows them wherever they go, but it's the safest place, and so they all go inside and start cleaning it up like the 7 dwarfs, and I guess they're planning to stay there a while. And in the meantime, Corey and his girlfriend go in the other room. What's his girlfriend's name? Which one is she? I get the whole cast totally mixed up because there's just so damn many of them. I mean, like, Dell is with Terry, right? But when we first see him, he kisses Elaine. And that's Corey's girlfriend. That's her name, Elaine. And he kisses Elaine in front of Corey and in front of his own girlfriend, Terry, because apparently Elaine used to be with Dell. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just a jerk. And then there's that moment when Jack, whose girl is Bonnie the one who just got transformed into a bleeding doll by demonic little girls with superhuman strength and then explodes in flame? I think that's Bonnie. Jack and Corey had that moment in the diner when they gazed deeply into each other's eyes while Bonnie was looking on, like maybe they swing both ways. I don't know. And right after that, Elaine shows her lingerie butt to Corey, maybe to remind him he's supposed to like girls. And then there's that whole Siegfried and Roy duo of Stacy and Chuck. I'm never sure whether it's 2 magicians or 1 magician and a magician announcer, but they would seem to be gay lovers if we didn't know that Dell is jealous towards Chuck because he used to be with Terry. Apparently, Terry spreads it around. And then like 5 seconds after Bonnie dies, Chuck is going back to Terry to tell her he still loves her, even though she's with Dell now, which doesn't seem like the proper time to be having relationship talks. But anyway, it doesn't matter because Corey's dead grandmother just appeared to him in ghost form and showed him where her hieroglyphic diary is hidden. And so he can use that to access the power of the 2 daggers that she left for him, even though he needs 5 more daggers because it takes 7 daggers to kill Satan. Even though I haven't really explained how Satan figures into this story. And meanwhile, I'm back on those 3 evil little girls. Do we really need new characters at this point in the story? You know, I'm sure that Chuck will be clearing all this up in the next segment. So let's just roll the film. But don't they seem kind of unconcerned about the fact that Bonnie just became an exploding toy? I mean, that's Sherry Bendorf as Bonnie, Omaha, Nebraska girl. She went on to a great career as a stunt woman. Anytime you see a beautiful movie star doing something physically impossible for a beautiful movie star to do, that's probably Sherry Bendorf. She was in 2 movies before this. She was in Slaughterhouse and Born Killer, but she always longed to be in a film that featured martial arts experts with mullets who do magic tricks while driving a convertible. And those are some good mullets. You know, you could shave those mullets, use them as dust mops, put a shine on Grand Central Station.
The next segment break. 59 minutes.
You know, I couldn't quite put my finger on what was missing in this movie, but now I know that it was 2 additional cast members who drive up right after a zombie attack led by a bare-breasted she-demon who gets her head kicked off by a kung fu magician. And by the way, the hot she-demon, that's Tiffany Million. She had recently retired from Glow, better known as Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. But this movie was a turning point for her because after this she made Blow, Beautiful Ladies of Wrestling, which was the porn version of Glow. And then she made 100 more porn flicks before becoming a bounty hunter. Yes, that's what I said. So, yeah, in case you're not clear on the backstory that was revealed by Corey just now, let me tell you what I think it is, because I watched this several times. In the 1920s, a cult leader named Enders came to these parts. You know how they always say these parts when they're indicating vague hillbilly origins in places that don't have hillbillies? And Enders started doing demonic rituals, and one day he sacrificed 3 little girls on an altar, and that caused Enders and all his followers to be burned to death in the ghost house that keeps following everybody around. But then in December 1929, the year Corey's father was born, a woman known only as Mrs. James, who hasn't yet appeared in the story, gives birth to triplets who have to be killed right after they're born because they're not human. And now, according to the diary, everybody in town is dead except for Corey's grandmother and her husband George. But we know from previous scenes that George is a wife-eating demon whose body splits open like Paul Bunyan axed him in the navel. And while that was happening, they, quote, they were, quote, rising in the barn. I'm not sure who they were. I have to assume it's the same yellow goose spitting demons that appear as Siegfried and Roy are venturing outside to slay the porn star. But the only thing Grandma has to fight the demons with are spells given to her by her grandma. This would mean the backstory now goes back 4 generations. We have 4 generations of plot in this movie, and 2 daggers, which is not enough dagger power because you need 7 daggers. So Corey has all this information from the diary because he's a speed reader, evidently. But when he tells the others, he leaves out the part about the daggers because I guess he wants the daggers for himself and his girlfriend. I don't know. All of his close friends that he has to spend the weekend ghost hunting with him are pretty much just being unfriended at this point in the movie. And by the way, the guy who just drove up and turned off his engine so that Satan could kill his battery, that's Richard Gabai, director of many films, including Vice Girls, Assault of the Party Nerds, Virgin High, The Bike Squad. Then he went through a period of making TV movies. Richard has been around for years as an actor and director and writer of dozens of exploitation films, and he obviously heard about this one after filming began because he's showing up at the end of the second act. Anyway, let's dive back into the mind of writer-director Charles Philip Moore as we continue with the only haunted house, time travel, vomit-spewing demon, zombie apocalypse, multi-generational, Satan worship, martial arts film ever made. It was one of those genres that just didn't catch on. Okay, roll the film. And I love how no matter what's happening around him, Dell, that character Dell, he wants to have sex. Doesn't matter what's happening in the movie, he wants to have sex. That's Bobby Johnston in that role. And this was only his second movie, but he would go on to do a lot of those erotic thrillers. Remember that period in the early 90s when there was a new erotic thriller every week? Most of them starred Shannon Tweed. And they had titles like Sexual Intentions, Deadly Desire, Kiss of Death. And Bobby Johnston would be the second lead hunky man-meat in all of those things. He also did a lot of modeling. He had one of those spreads in Playgirl. And then he compared the money you get from posing in a women's magazine and the money you get posing in a gay porn magazine. And then he became a model for Men magazine. He was like one of those guys with the ripped abs and the massive quads, you know, that do the male stripper shows in Vegas. And girls try to drag their boyfriends to those, and the boyfriends go, I bet they're all gay. The boyfriends are always hoping that the strippers are gay, But actually, gay guys, when they see those shows, they're also hoping that the dancers are gay. Or even better, I hope they're guys who don't know they're gay yet. They need a guy like me to bring them out of their shells, Right, they're in their shells, they're sheltered, they're flopping their wang doodle all over a 90-foot stage, and they're unaware of their sexuality.
The next segment break is at 1 hour, 18 minutes.
So what did I just see? I think what I saw is that Zombie Jack, who's only recently become a zombie because he saw some version of the dead Bonnie gesturing at him through a window, and so he stupidly stuck his hand out the window and he got chewed to a bloody pulp. Zombie Jack expresses his love for the dead ghost Bonnie by hitting on the non-zombie Elaine, girlfriend of Corey, who doesn't notice because he's busy blowing away attack zombies as they break into the house, while Jack is using his zombie hands to paw at Elaine's breasts, resulting in a dagger in his head, which causes him to scream, transform into a younger version of himself, age regress until he's a baby, then turn into a dove and fly away. Because, that's what happens to sexual harassment demons, cheating on their conniving zombie girlfriends. This was a first in a series of 1 movies for Mark David Frisch as Jack. Now, I don't know about you, but I was very glad to see the magicians come back as zombies, especially Steven Quadros, the beer can kickboxer. Steven was the drummer in a metal band called Snow that was the opening act for Iron Butterfly, and they released 1 album in 1980. Then they took 3 decades off, and then they reformed for some LA gigs. But in the meantime, he became the go-to play-by-play guy for all those weird martial arts shows on Showtime. He was the announcer on Strike Force Challengers, Show XC, Elite XC. He did the Pride Fighting Championships for Fox, International Fight League, Cage Rage, World Extreme Cage Fighting, Rumble on the Rock, King of the Cage. He's done like 50 shows, including my favorite, Kuwait Shitokan Jitsu Warriors War 1. Now, I know it wasn't as good as Kuwait Shitokan Jitsu Warriors War 2 after they made the ring smaller, but still, he was the innovator on that. And in other words, all the mixed martial arts shows that do not get anywhere close to Conor McGregor. But we will always remember him as Chuck the Kung Fu Magician and the spurned ex-boyfriend of the now cackling demoness Terry, who provides the most supremely satisfying moment in the movie when she plunges 4 pointy fingers into the forehead of Dell. All right, back to the movie. Oh, did I mention that Lou Diamond Phillips is in the movie? Oh, yeah. We have to take a moment for this. The cinematographer on the movie was a guy named Thomas Calloway, who shot many famous horror films, including Creepazoid, Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, Slumber Party Massacre 2, Assault of the Killer Bimbos, Vice Academy 2, Ghetto Blaster. The guy was turning out like 7, 8 movies a year. And so when he's trying to get footage of all those demons, and by the way, aren't those the most liquid zombies you've ever seen in your life? He keeps going back to this one demon that is just better than the other demons. He moves better. He's just got zombiedom coursing through his body. And so they take a break from filming, and Tom goes over to that demon, and he chats with him, and he tells him what a great job he's doing, and he asks him his name, and he says, Lou Diamond Phillips. And, of course, Tom thinks he's kidding. And then later he finds out it really is Lou Diamond Phillips. His wife was working on the movie as the second assistant director. That's an actual title in movies. You have the director, the first assistant director, the second assistant director, and then for some reason you don't have a third assistant director like normal people would title it. You have a second assistant director. Okay, so that person was Lou Diamond Phillips' wife, Kansas girl. They'd been married for 3 years, and Lou was so into zombies that he asked if he could just volunteer. But I got to finish with this strangeness, okay? Shortly after Demon Wind was completed, the second assistant director, who is married to Lou Diamond Phillips, falls in love with Melissa Etheridge, who she met during the filming of a music video the year before. So she dumps Lou Diamond Phillips, and she becomes a gay rights advocate, and she has 2 children with Melissa Etheridge, later revealed to be using the sperm of David Crosby. You think I'm making this up, don't you? Okay, then in 2000, she decides she's not gay, and so she divorces Melissa Etheridge. Actually, they had no gay marriage at the time, so I guess there was no, legal divorce. But she leaves Melissa Etheridge, and then she gets married to a heterosexual male guy. So Lou, man, I'm sorry, man. Lou has to be going, what the fuck? She leaves me because she's gay, but she really just wants to have 2 children with a woman, even though we didn't have any children during the presumed heterosexual part of her life. But then she dumps the woman, being in some gay rights commercials, for a man. And I put on full body zombie makeup for that bitch. That's how much I loved her. See, this is why I don't live in LA.
And the next segment break after the end credits.
So, important consumer tip. If you ever do encounter a giant pus-faced version of Satan, you should transform into a Klingon and knee him in the groin. Isn't that what he did? Corey went low-tech with it in his big moment. That's Eric Larson as Corey. This movie was his farewell to the big screen. He went back to theater work, but he was very pleased with himself as he defeated the evil killer of his grandparents, which was Satan, right? Aren't they saying all the zombies transformed into a giant Satan? That reminds me, though, of a question I had about Elaine, the girlfriend who goes back and forth between normal and zombie, and then she reads the magic words that explode the giant demon. How does she know how to draw a pentagram and then draw a circle around the pentagram and light a candle in the middle of it? And how does she have time to do all that? And don't you draw a pentagram when you're trying to worship Satan? They're trying to kill Satan. Anyway, that's Francine Leponce as Elaine. She was in 15 low-budget films, usually playing the hottie. She was also a cover girl for Easy Riders magazine. Do they still publish Easy Riders magazine? Motorcycles, tattoos, and girls in high heels and bikinis. What more could you want in life? I think I could have understood that last sequence better, though, if I knew what the giant demon was saying. But it was so muffled. And this is because, according to the editor, they cut the sound on a Commodore computer. We make jokes here about our Commodore 64 that runs our show, but they really did use a Commodore computer. And they also shot the whole movie with what are called short ends. These are the unexposed parts of a reel of film that the studios didn't use, so they sell them for really cheap to indie filmmakers. And Paul Hunt, the producer, formerly the editor on the European edition of Robin Leach's Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, was so cheap that he wanted the whole film shot with short ends. And he also wanted to use a porn lab in the valley for processing. So they had all these incredibly short ends of film, all mislabeled. So some of them were Kodak films, some of them were Fuji films, some of them were off-brands. Plus the camera itself was an Ultracam, which was a rip-off version of a Panavision camera. It squeaked all the time and ruined the sound takes. They used an off-brand dolly that no longer exists because it was so cheap. All the interiors were shot in a little warehouse in Van Nuys. It was so crowded they couldn't get lights in there for a lot of the scenes. They had one whole afternoon of shooting nothing but squibs. I would call them blood squibs, but I guess they're more accurately goo squibs. And meanwhile, they got this big cast, all these special effects, all these transformations, no budget. So Chuck Moore, the director who left town, really did achieve something when he did this. If you look at that scene in the barn, that was a day when fortunately, they ran out of short ends that day, so they had to splurge and buy new film stock. And so it looks drastically different from the rest of the film. They didn't have the equipment or the manpower to do those fog scenes, and so they just used available fog.
Available fog.
They just rushed out there with a second unit when they saw any fog rolling in. Okay, people, here's how we're going to work. We'll shoot the fog scenes whenever it gets foggy. So just be ready to move, right? And by the way, that was Tim Trella who did the full body burn in the fire suit. He would go on to be one of the most but that's the that brought them together, watching all their friends die, and then celebrating by killing one last zombie in the gas station diner. Demon Wind, the finest movie ever made, featuring an explosive projectile chicken. And it did make money, especially on the drive-in circuit, according to the producers. And As if we didn't have enough Satan for one night, coming up we have the 2009 House of the Devil. Jocelyn Donahue takes the babysitting job from hell. But first, it's time for the
Ladies and
old
gentlemen, Darcy,
mailbag.
the lovely mail girl.
You're gonna love this one.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, it's super sweet. It's from Amanda Callahan of Clayton, North Carolina.
I actually know where Clayton, North Carolina is. It's by Raleigh. So you wouldn't know that because you're a South Carolina person. In fact, we have South Carolina people all over this set. What is it with the South Carolina stuff here?
South Carolina rules.
I get all the flack for being politically incorrect. Meanwhile, you people in South Carolina started the Civil War. Okay, I'll just remind you of that.
But we have better food
Better food than who?
than North Carolina.
Okay, we'll get into that later, but let's read the letter. Joe Bob, you handsome devil, you. Actually, you're right. I do like this letter.
I know
Okay.
it.
A very long time, and I watched you in my teen years. I would love to meet you one day. My email is to ask you a question. I wanted to know if you would sign my arm for a tattoo. I only asked because some people don't like to, and I wanted to be sure before I get it designed and put on me. Oh man, this is a serious letter. This is like, but believe it or not, this is not the first time this has happened.
I think it's so sweet she wants to do that.
On my right arm, I have Kane Hodder's autograph by my Jason mask. Robert Englund signed me earlier this year by my Freddie Glove tattoo. And I want Christopher Duran to sign my Michael Myers tattoo. That's a lot of tattoos, you know. Which then leads me to my drive-in Monster Vision Joe Bob Briggs addition to my arm, and I would definitely want you to sign that. Anyways, thank you for all of the entertainment. I thoroughly enjoy your commentary. You are a hilarious and educational guy and make even movies that I hate watchable. I've watched your Shutter show 5 times now. Thank you, Amanda. 5 times. Wow. I'm also recommending that somebody who is over at Mad Monster Party Convention contact your people, like I have people, to get you to North Carolina next year, hopefully. That's the one in Charlotte. Is it Mad Monster, the one in Charlotte? They don't like me. I'm not going there. Take care. Much love and respect, Amanda. Well, Amanda, I can assure you that, yes, indeed, if we can figure out a time and a place, I'd be happy. Wait a minute. What am I supposed to do? I just sign the arm, whatever. And it is your arm, right? And then the signature becomes a part of the actual tattoo. And then she goes on an episode of Ink Master. So some professional. Okay, got it. We'll find some other convention on the East Coast.
I have no doubt they love you in Charlotte.
Yeah, I know, but not the convention guy. I'll tell you this story later. They love you in Charlotte. Are you a Panthers cheerleader yet?
Not quite yet.
You know what you should do?
Huh.
Cosplay a Panther in the cheerleader tryouts. You're so good at cosplay.
I will seriously
a
do that.
Sexy Panther. I'm sure they don't even have that. Do they have a mascot on the Panthers?
Yes,
they don't have a mascot.
Yes, they do. Sir Purr.
So you can't cosplay the Panther?
Yeah.
You like it piss off Sir Purr?
I'll take on Sir Purr.
All right. You've been to London, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You told me you took the Jack the Ripper tour. That's cool. Yeah, really? Okay, then you'll appreciate this joke. American tourist in London decides to skip the group tour and explore the city on his own. And so he wanders around, he's looking at all the sights. He occasionally stops at a quaint pub to soak up the local culture. He's chatting with the characters in the bar. And he'll have a pint of Guinness everywhere he stops. So after several stops at the pubs, he finds himself in a very high-class area. There's these big stately homes. There's no pubs, there's no shops, there's no restaurants, and worst of all, there's no public toilets. And he really, really has to pee after drinking all that Guinness. So he finds a narrow side street with high walls surrounding the buildings, and he decides he's just going to solve his problem by using the wall. But as he starts to unzip his pants, he's tapped on the shoulder by a bobby who says, "Sorry, chap, you absolutely cannot do that here." And the American says, "I'm very sorry, officer, but I really, really have to go, and I just can't find a public toilet." And so the bobby says, "Ah, yes, okay, follow me." And so the bobby leads him to a back delivery alley. Then they walk along a wall to a gate, and he opens the gate, and he says, "Go in there. Go inside this gate and just whiz away, sir, any place you want." So the American goes through the gate, finds himself in the most beautiful garden he has ever seen. It's got manicured grass lawns, it's got statues, it's got fountains, sculptured hedges, huge beds of gorgeous flowers. And since he has the bobby's permission, he unburdens himself, and he's greatly relieved. And then he goes back through the gate and he says to the Bobby, "That was really decent of you. Is that what you call British hospitality?" And the Bobby says, "No, that's what we call the French embassy." Really decent of you. Is that what you call British hospitality? And the Bobby says, "No, that's what we call the French embassy."
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. That is going to do it for our watch along episode tonight of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Season 4. Thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you for watching. And until next time, peace, God.